Hi everybody, Dr. Mike here. In this video, we're taking a look at motility within the gut. Specifically, we're focusing on the physiology of peristalsis. Let's take a look. All right, so to begin, you know I've done videos in the past looking at the various neurons within the gut that we call the enteric nervous system. One really important one you need to understand for peristalsis is the myenteric plexus. So if we were to have a look at the alimentary canal, so the tube that goes from the mouth all the way down through to the anus, it's made up of multiple layers, around about 7 layers. But there's 2 really important layers we need to understand for peristalsis, and they are both muscle layers. So there is what we call an inner circular, let's label this I think, an inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer. Now, between the inner and outer layers of these muscles is the myenteric plexus, neurons that comprise the enteric nervous system. But before we talk about that, let's just talk about these layers. So you can see the circular muscle layer goes around the tube. So when it contracts, it's going to narrow the hollow lumen of the tube. That's going to be important, not only for peristalsis, but for things like segmentation and mixing, but that's a future video. Then you've got the longitudinal layer, which goes the length of the muscle. So when this contracts, it's going to shorten the tube, right? So we need to keep this in mind. Together, between shortening and elongation and narrowing and relaxation, we're going to get the movement of stuff through the alimentary canal, through the gastrointestinal tract. That's peristalsis. The way I think about it is if you had a tennis ball in a stocking or a sock, the way you try and move it through is peristalsis. You have waves of contraction and relaxation. Let's focus and see how it works. So you've just ingested food into your gastrointestinal tract. So it goes to this hollow lumen, and now what we've got is a bolus, so this is an amount, a bolus of foodstuffs inside your gastrointestinal tract. Now, this big bolus of food, what it's going to do is it's going to stretch the gastrointestinal tract, the alimentary canal. And so what it does is it will stimulate through stretch this particular area here. So now we've stretched this area. Okay. I said, here are the inner circular muscles, here are the outer longitudinal muscles, and between here I said there are neurons. So let's have a look at these neurons. First I want to talk about is you're going to have neurons that are just sensory neurons, right? And these sensory neurons are going to have receptors that are going to pick up changes such as changes in stretch. So this neuron here is a sensory neuron that's just picked up stretch. What does it do? Well, it sends signals to interneurons. So it says, all right, I've just picked up stretch. I'm going to send this signal off to a range of other neurons in my area. And these are interneurons. So it sends it to this interneuron, it sends it to this interneuron, and it sends it to this interneuron. So interneurons are just neurons that sit between, right? They pass the message on. So firstly, this sensory neuron stimulates, so it will positively regulate, it will stimulate this neuron, and this neuron will now speak to a motor neuron. And what this effector or motor neuron will do is it will go down and it will stimulate the circular muscle sitting behind the bolus. And what it does is it stimulates it. Now, it stimulates it how? That's a plus, by the way. It might look like a cross, that's a plus. It stimulates it. Now, it stimulates it by releasing acetylcholine. So we've got acetylcholine now getting released here. That's stimulating this muscle to contract. Now, if acetylcholine stimulates the muscle behind to contract, and it's circular muscle, right? What does it do? Well, it's going to narrow the lumen. and that's going to help push that bolus forward. But it'll only help push that bolus forward if the circular muscle in front of it is relaxed. Great, that's exactly what happens. It will speak to inhibitory neurons, not excitatory like we had here. It'll speak to inhibitory neurons. And it's unsurprising what these inhibitory neurons will do. It will tell the muscle in front to relax. And it does this by releasing not acetylcholine, that's excitatory, but it does it by releasing either nitric oxide or vasoactive intestinal peptide. They are the inhibitory peptide neurotransmitters in this instance. Right, so we've got, and that results in a relaxation. All right, that makes sense. We've now got the circular muscle contracting behind and relaxing ahead. But what about the outer longitudinal muscle? Now this becomes a bit more complex to think about. If we were to contract the circular behind, but also contract the longitudinal behind, it's actually going to pull things backwards, right? It's going to pull things backwards. So what we want to do is relax the longitudinal muscle behind it. And that's going to help further push that bolus forward. Then in front, it can tell it to contract, because what it will do is as that bolus moves forward, if this part moves back, it's going to collect the bolus. And then when it's at the point where it wants to relax, it helps move it forward. So the opposite happens for the longitudinal, in the sense that this interneuron is now going to talk to other neurons, such as, let's highlight it here with two arms. So it's going to speak to, or two dendrites, or two axons, whatever, here. And this is going to speak to this muscle. And it's going to inhibit it. So it's going to release nitric oxide or vasoactive intestinal peptide and tell it to relax. So this muscle now relaxes. So if this muscle relaxes, what do you think happens? It's all relaxed. Great, it's relaxed. But in front, it tells it to contract, releasing acetylcholine. And this contraction will help collect that bolus to help move it forward. Brilliant. So that makes sense for peristalsis, right? But we need to talk about a couple of other things, because this intestine, or well, if it is the intestine, we're just talking generally with the alimentary canal. If it's just sitting there waiting for a bolus and not doing anything, well, what about the stuff that's sort of sitting there without the food? So for example, it's not just waiting for food to do this process. When there's no food, it can also do this process. It's just not called peristalsis. So when there is food, right? So when there is food, we call this process peristalsis. When there is no food, so during fasting, we call this the migrating motor complex. So we've got the migrating motor complex. Now, the migrating motor complex, you might be thinking, but there's no food, so what stimulates this? Well, an important chemical called motility. And what motility will do is it will act similar to acetylcholine and stimulate these muscles. Now, in actual fact, stimulation doesn't just happen, right? If I were to highlight all the various stimulatory chemicals for this process, it's not just acetylcholine and it's not just motility, but another important one is gastrin. So gastrin also plays a really important role in stimulating. So I want to talk about how they stimulate. So, and also the fact that it doesn't just wait for a bolus. So there's actually some pacemaker cells in here that will undergo a process of wanting to contract in a patterned way. Let's talk about it. So, for example, what we'd have is, if I were to look at a normal action potential. So you all know action potentials. If not, go watch my action potential videos. We've got time on the x-axis, we've got millivolts on the y-axis, and we're not going to worry about specific voltages here. What we find is that, remember, you can go towards depolarization and then repolarization. Now, if we look at some specified or specific, or I should say specialized, muscle cells within the gastrointestinal tract, it has pacemaker cells, right? And these are called the interstitial cells of Kajal. So interstitial cells of, some people say Kajal, but it's Cajal, right? Because it's Spanish, interstitial cells of Cajal. What happens is they will, like the pacemaker cells of the heart, right? Spontaneously depolarize, repolarize, depolarize, repolarize. And they undergo a certain number of cycles. So the cycles are fewer in the stomach, they're more in the intestines, but this is the case. Now, the important thing is they're all sub-threshold depolarization events. So that's the threshold. Now, you know what that means, right? An action potential must reach threshold before it can stimulate the cell to do something. So, for example, a neuron, you can have as many depolarization events, but if it doesn't hit as you want, but if it doesn't hit threshold, the neuron doesn't send a signal. Same thing happens for muscle. You can have as many of these as you want, but if it doesn't hit threshold, there's no contraction, right? So your question might be, then why the hell do we have these, what we actually call slow wave? They're called slow wave events, right? Why do we have these slow wave events? It is priming the smooth muscle of the gastrointestinal tract to say that, well, when you do contract, don't just do it whenever you want, do it in these patterns or waves or fashion, right? So it's sort of sitting there just priming it, getting ready. And so what can happen is when this bolus pushes through and stimulates the stretch receptors and ultimately stimulates acetylcholine to be released, what acetylcholine will do in this cell, right, is it will bind to receptors. So acetylcholine will bind to receptors, open a channel, and it will allow for the influx of positive ions. Generally, in this case, calcium. And so if that then ends up inside the cell, we know we start to depolarize the cell, right? Now, if enough calcium enters that it actually hits threshold, well, this triggers more calcium to enter, and we get a huge influx, and we know that inside muscle cells, we have something called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This is a pool of calcium ions. I may have said influx of calcium cells, I meant ions. And so if this happens, this will trigger more calcium to be released. Now, what this means effectively is that you go from having these slow waves to once it hits threshold, so much calcium gets released, you have what's called spike waves. Like that, these spike waves. Now, these spike waves only happen on top of slow waves. So this bolus, as it pushes through, it will only stimulate contraction in accordance with the slow waves. And the spikes are the contractions, right? So then you get the next contraction, so heaps of calcium coming in, and then it stops. Heaps of calcium coming in, then it stops. So here, this is where we have the contractions, which makes sense because it's peristalsis occurring. Now, what's happening, if you want to know the specifics here, is that here is calcium coming in, and just like we have with other action potentials, the repolarization phase is potassium going out as normal. And you might be asking me, well, what causes the slow waves? Again, calcium in, potassium out, but they just work through different channels. So this is, once it hits threshold, that's voltage gated calcium channels, but here we've got what's called low conductance calcium channels. So just like the pacemaker cells of the heart, these are channels that are open generally when they aren't in other instances. So calcium goes in, potassium out, calcium in, potassium out. And this is setting the basic electrical rhythm of the heart. That's an important term. So these slow waves, they set the basic electrical rhythm of the heart. Sometimes you'll see it as of the heart, of the smooth muscle, sorry. Basic electrical rhythm of the smooth muscle. All right, so it's happening in that instance. So I hope this is making sense. This is what occurs all the way from the esophagus to the stomach to the intestines. It's just that these slow waves and the basic electrical rhythm varies, but this same mechanism occurs all throughout. I'm Dr. Mike. I hope that makes sense. Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. We've got hundreds of others just like this. If you want to contact us, please do so on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter and TikTok at Dr. Mike Todorovic, at DrMiketodorovic. Speak to you soon.